again, everyone. This is Stephanie, and I'm going to do a cooking video kind of today, even though it's not actually cooking. It's a food video, no cooking. So I'm just going to show you kind of quickly and easily how to make a really healthy and tasty snack that I personally enjoy. I'm sure everyone has heard of energy balls or bliss balls or whatever you want to call them. But anyway, they're basically like little energy balls, but they don't have to be for when you need energy. They can also just be to like curb a sweet tooth. One of my favorite recipes for these energy balls is a southern pecan pie energy ball, and it's just made with dates, very heavily toasted pecans, as you can see, and I'll show you guys kind of a close-up of all of this in a second. Maple syrup, cinnamon, and salt. So really simple ingredients, fairly inexpensive with how much this makes, and I'm making a pretty large batch, so that's why I have a lot here, but you can scale this down to whatever size you need. I don't know, I'll put something in the description to make this a little bit easier to modify if you only need a little bit. So I do toast my oats and my nuts whenever I make these. I just don't like the taste of raw oats as much as toasted. I think it gives it a nice nuttiness, has a little bit more of a crunch, I would say. And I always toast my nuts a little bit more than you might think they need to be toasted. You don't want to burn them, obviously, but toast them on about 300 degrees for a fairly long period of time. I would say at least probably 20 minutes for most nuts. You want to make sure they're toasted all the way through, since we are going to be grinding these up pretty small. So you want all of it toasted, not just the outside. It's pretty easy assembly. I'm gonna chop up my dates so that I don't completely ruin my food processor by doing this. Chop up my dates okay, let me clarify. I will chop up my dates with a knife before they go into the food processor, just so that they're in smaller pieces and I can make sure that there are no pits. I'm also going to process my pecans and my oats in the food processor, and then I just throw everything in the bowl with the syrup, the cinnamon, and the salt, mix it all together by hand, and then I scoop and roll my balls. So it's pretty easy. I guess we will just get to it. Let's get the ball rolling. I just wanted to say that at least one time in this video, so I did. All right. And there we go. Okay. Okay, I have about 820 grams of dates, 600 grams of toasted pecans, 200 grams of toasted oats, about 200 to 220 grams of maple syrup, and then 3 teaspoons of cinnamon and 1 teaspoon of kosher salt. So first thing, I'm going to chop these up, and then I'm going to put both of these in the food processor to grind them up. I just kind of, just rough chop these. You also want to have a big bowl to kind of dump everything into. Change positions. Now I'm gonna start by blending up my oats. So let's see, let's do this on low. And then I start it and stop it and shake it around a little bit just to make sure that I don't have a powder on the bottom and then chunks on top. That is about what you're looking for. You can go a little finer if you want, but I like to keep it a little chunky. All right, next I'm gonna process all the pecans. You can see these are pretty toasted, but they're not burnt, they're just toasted all the way through. So, put these in. Again, that's 300 degrees, and you want to toast them for like 20 minutes at least, probably. Just set a timer and check them like every 10 minutes. You'll know if you burn them, but try to avoid that. That is about what I look for as far as crumb. That's a little big. Eat that one. So I just have so far in the bowl the pecans and the oats, and you don't have to toast these if you don't want to. I think it makes them taste better. Like I said, it takes out kind of that raw flour taste in the oats and just makes the pecans taste more like pecans. And since I want this to be kind of a southern pecan pie kind of flavor, I do want to be able to taste the pecans pretty well. So at this point, I'm gonna go ahead and put the cinnamon and the salt in the bowl and mix this around just to make sure it's kind of evenly distributed, because dates are sticky and the maple syrup is sticky. So I just wanna make sure that the flavor is evenly distributed, and the easiest way to do that is to put all of the dry ingredients together. All right, so I just mix everything up. It's the oats, the pecans, the spices, or cinnamon, not any other spices than that. Cinnamon and salt, if you want to put nutmeg, cloves, things like that in here, go ahead. And then the last thing we have to work with is the motor killer, our dates. And that's why I like to break them up into small pieces. There have been times when I've caught some pits in here, so you want to try to avoid that, because these things are not cheap and these can break them. So I kind of get my dates going, and I'll probably do this in 2 to 3 batches in here. Once I get the dates going a little bit, I will add in a little bit of the maple syrup just to make it a little bit easier on the motor to kind of process everything and get it all ground up. Running away from me right now. Okay, so I'm gonna put in a little bit of the maple syrup. Okay, so when it starts kind of forming together in a ball, you are good. And just make sure you're checking the heat on your food processor, and once it starts to get hot, give it a little bit of a break if that does happen. Like I said, you don't want to break this. So this is going to go in my bowl with my nuts. I would also try not to fill up your food processor like more than halfway when you're doing the dates, again, because it's going to be really hard on the motor. So this is everything in the bowl. You are free to mix this with a spatula if you want. I prefer to just throw on some gloves and do it by hand. That way I can kind of smush the dates and make sure everything is really worked together, and yeah, it's just easier to do it by hand, honestly. And then all you have to do after that is scoop it if you want. I use a little portion scoop so they're all kind of roughly the same size. But again, you know, it's just an energy ball, so it's not that big of a deal if you want to do it a different way. I'm gonna mix all of this up and then start rolling my balls. Now this batch did come out a little drier and more crumbly than it does usually. So if that happens to you and it's getting just too difficult to roll, you can just add a little bit more maple syrup. You can also use agave if you don't want to use maple syrup, or you can use honey if you would prefer to use that. But this to me just gives it that pecan pie flavor that I've named these, so that's the kind of flavor that I'm going after. That's all I've got for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and give these a try. They're really delicious. I really like these as a snack. They're nice to make for other people. If you want to make a big batch, it can be a little time consuming, but these do last for a few months if you store them in an airtight container and just keep them stored properly. You know, just use common sense. I don't think that they freeze very well. I have not tried, but you could refrigerate them if you feel like it. So I guess that's it. If you guys have any questions or comments or anything that you want to add, feel free to leave it in the comments below. If you try these and like them, I would love to hear about it. Or if you have another recipe that you want me to try, just let me know. You guys can find me on Instagram at SimpleCareSteph. Remember to like this video if you liked it, and subscribe for updates if you want notifications when I do post new videos. And I will see you guys next time.